Good evening, yogis. My name is Daniel. This is Daniel Lee Yoga. Thank you for joining me for class today. So this week in class, we will be working on hamstrings and hip flexors. And today will be a 60-minute Vinyasa focus fundamentals class. So in our fundamentals, we'll spend a little bit more time breaking down poses one at a time, spending a little bit longer duration in each pose, and really just taking our time to connect to our breath along the way. So thank you for joining me. As far as the hamstrings and hip flexors, this was kind of a special request, and it's really good to spend some time in those areas. So while this is a 60-minute focus class, you can take some of these postures and use them for a stretching routine after you work out, after you go for a run, or do any kind of lower body exercise. Just kind of keep that in mind. As far as the hamstrings, those are the muscles on the back of your thigh. I think it's three different muscles that run from that top of the knee all the way up to basically your kind of the sacrum area. It's a very like injury prone area. Maybe some of you have had injuries or have pulled slightly or torn it at some point. I know I've pulled it more times than I can remember. So really just use these as an opportunity to hopefully prevent that. As far as the hip flexors, those are the muscles on top of your thigh, and those allow you to flex your hip. So bring that knee up into your chest kind of deal. So again, all these postures, I'm going to build them into a routine for a class here. If you use these outside of the class, my only just general recommendation is make sure you're warmed up. So we're adequately going to get warmed up in class before we go into any deeper stretches, but that's my only recommendation. So just be careful holding any longer poses if you haven't warmed up. If you're doing this before a run, recommend just jogging up a little bit, at least just to warm your body up before you start stretching in any intense or holding for any prolonged way. So as far as what we need for class, strap will definitely be nice. It'll allow us to get a little bit deeper into our stretches. So definitely have that handy. If you don't have a strap, I'm just using a belt today. You can also use a towel, an old shirt, anything like that will work fine. Blocks are not super necessary, but if you have them, keep them nearby. Again, they'll help you get a little bit deeper and they may help you be a little bit more comfortable in your poses as we go through. So just set your blocks up at the top of the mat for now and keep your strap, we'll just say at the middle for now. We'll use that shortly. So I think we're all set. I don't think I have any other announcements this week other than I hope you've all had a great weekend and are ready for class today. All right, let's get started. Meet me on your back with your knees slightly bent, feet on the mat. With your feet rooted, have your feet and your knees hips width distance. Arms down to the sides, palms face up. Let your shoulders be heavy. Just rest the back of your head on the mat. Begin to start deepening your breathing here. Allow yourself to transition into this time, this practice. Know that this time is for you. No need to worry about whatever was going on earlier in the day or what you have planned for the rest of the evening or the week. Allow this hour to be a time to connect with yourself. We're working on connecting the breath to the movement, and I'll remind you of that throughout practice. Just take one more deep inhale and exhale. Now, keeping your knees bent, keep your left foot on the mat, but hug your right knee in towards your chest. Wrap your arms around that right knee and just give a gentle squeeze in towards your chest. You can also wrap around your thigh if that feels a little more comfortable, or your hands can just rest on the outside of your thigh. Hi, Coney. And while you're here, again, you're just gently squeezing that right knee in toward your chest, keeping that left knee bent. Just stay for one more breath. And exhale, gently release that right knee, right foot to meet the left foot. Let's switch to the other side. So now hug that left knee in towards your chest. Drawing that left knee in towards that left shoulder. Keep both sit bones rooted. And again, you can have your hands around your shin, your thigh, or just hands rest on the outside of that thigh. Taking some nice deep breaths here. Just one more. And exhale as you gently release both feet down. Now this time extend your left leg straight out, release that left heel to the mat, and draw that right knee in towards your chest again this time. Now flex both feet. That means the toes are coming back, drawing back towards your face. And have your left knee and left toes face up towards the ceiling. And you're drawing that right knee in towards that right shoulder. And now extend and draw that left heel away from your body. Just notice how this might feel a little different. And wherever you're holding onto your leg, your thigh, or your shin, just keep your shoulders rooted the entire time. So if your arms are coming up to try and hold on to a part of that leg, try and release them down and maybe hold a little bit farther down. Just stay for one more breath. And exhale. We'll switch here. So extend that right leg out and draw that left knee in towards your chest. Again, flexing the right toes so they come back toward your face. And make sure that knee points up towards the ceiling as well. Start to draw that left knee in towards that left shoulder. Keep those shoulder blades on the ground. Try to draw that right heel away from your body. We're here for 2 breaths. Just one more deep breath here. Now keep that left knee bent, release the left foot, rebend that right knee, and come back to where we started class. Both feet on the mat, knees or hips width distance. Now, grab your strap or your towel or your belt, whatever you have for today. And begin by drawing that right knee in toward your chest. So this time we're going to wrap the strap around the ball of that right foot. So if you need to lift up to do that, keeping that left knee bent to start, wrap that strap around the ball and grab both ends with either hand. Again, keep your shoulders rooted and make sure your arms are relatively straight. So if you grab and your elbows are bent, start to walk your hands up so they're relatively straight while still keeping your shoulders on the ground. Once you have all that, that right foot is still flexed, then you can begin to raise that right foot up slightly and start to straighten that leg. Remember, it's still early, so we're not looking for anything too intense here. But really try to push that right heel up towards the sky. Again, this knee can be bent. I actually probably prefer that at this point in class. And you're just gently drawing down on either side of that belt or strap or towel, whatever you're using today. Just stay for a couple more deep breaths. Try to draw that right thigh in a little bit closer to your chest. And one more breath here. And exhale, gently release. Right knee bends. We'll switch to the other side. So release that right foot down. Left foot comes off the mat. Wrap the strap around the ball of that left foot this time. Now you're flexing the left foot. Keep the shoulders both on the mat. Grab opposite ends of the strap. And then walk your hands up the strap until your arms are relatively straight. And once you have all that, then you can begin to straighten the legs slightly and press that left heel up towards the sky. So you're pressing that left heel up as you're drawing that left thigh in towards that left shoulder. Keep flexing the left foot. You're just gently drawing back and down with your arms. Stay for 2 more breaths here. And one last breath. And gently release. So release that left foot down, come back to where we started, both knees bent. Now we're going to repeat that, but we'll have the option to straighten our bottom leg and release it to the ground. That might be a little bit too much of a stretch for you to start. So if you want to start and come back to the bent knee and do that, just repeat that process. So you have the option. We'll begin by bending the right knee in towards the chest. So everyone's here. We'll repeat this side. Wrap the strap around. Ball that right toe, right foot, I should say. And now you have the option. Keep that left knee bent, or if you want to extend and straighten it, release that left heel to the ground. Same thing with holding the strap. Wrap it around the ball. Grab both ends with both hands. Flexing that foot. Keeping the shoulders rooted. Arms are relatively straight. And then you begin to extend that right leg up, right heel up to the sky. So you're either here or you're bending that left knee. Sometimes that can give you a little bit more support with that knee bent. So just do what works for you for practice now. Don't worry, we'll have plenty more options to stretch out our hamstrings here. This is just a little warm up. So keep drawing that right thigh back toward your right shoulder. Gentle pull with the arms. Staying for one more breath. And exhale, gently release the strap. Right knee bends and releases to the floor. Bend that left knee. And then hug that left knee in towards your chest. We'll wrap the strap around the left foot this time. Now you have the option, keep that right knee bent, foot rooted, or extend that right leg out, the right heel down. Either way, keep your shoulders down, start to straighten your arms, flex that left foot, and begin to draw that left heel up towards the sky. If that right leg is straight, keep flexing the right toes, so the toes and the knees face up towards the ceiling. You should feel that right leg still engaged. And wherever you are, draw that left thigh in toward your left shoulder. Gentle pull with the arms. Stay for 2 more breaths here. One more breath. And just gently rebend that knee. Release the strap off to the side. Keep it relatively nearby. Rebend both knees. Place both feet on the mat. Let's go ahead and open up our hips while we're here. So draw the right knee in. Place your right palm on top of that right knee. Left palm on that left thigh. Begin to make some circles with that right knee. So start in one direction here. That left hand is there to keep that left sit bone rooted. So begin to slow and switch directions. Just opening up that hip flexor. That big femur bone comes in to meet that pelvis, that hip joint there. And begin to slow, come back to center. Release that right foot down, we'll switch to the other side. So now left palm on top of the left knee as you draw it in. Release the right palm to that right thigh. Right hip. And begin to make some circles. First direction. If you feel that right sit bone coming up, just reduce the diameter of your circles. Begin to slow, let's switch directions. Just a couple more here. And come back to stillness. Let's hug both knees in towards the chest. Wrap your arms around, give a gentle squeeze. Hug that navel down towards the mat. And exhale. Let's gently keep our knees bent, but let them fall off to the side. And gently come onto your side for a moment here. From your side, use your top arm to press yourself up. We'll all be in tabletop. So in your tabletop pose, hands are underneath the shoulders, knees and tops of the feet are hips width distance, with the knees directly beneath the hips here. Take a peek at your wrist creases. Make sure that they're lined up with the short edge of your mat here, or slightly turned out. You don't want them to be turned in too much. You really either want them here or turned out slightly. I have a nice long spine, so gaze is up towards the top of your mat to elongate the back of your neck. Hug that navel in and up. Take an inhale here and exhale. Let's add some cow cats. Inhale as we drop the navel, send the heart forward, look up. Exhale, round the back, shoulders separate, head hangs heavy. Cat pose. Reversing that. Inhale, drop the navel, tailbone lifts, heart comes forward, look up. And exhale, round the back, shoulders separate, head hangs heavy. Keep going on your breath. Be very mindful of your movement here. Use this as an opportunity to connect your breath to your movement. We often forget how important the breathing is in any posture, really any daily life activity. And the more we can be aware of our breathing, the more we can settle our mind and make better decisions. So begin to finish out your cat-cows and meet me back in a nice neutral spine. And gazes up towards the top of your mat. Just take a nice deep inhale here and exhale. All right, we're going to add our legs to this. So begin by curling the right toes under, extend and straighten that right leg back, press back through that right heel. Now gently lower to where we came from, drop the right knee tops of the toes to the mat. We'll switch to the other side. So curl the left toes under, extend and straighten, press back to the left heel, and then gently release that left knee down. Keep going from side to side. So we curl the right toes under, extend and straighten, press back through the right heel, and exhale, gently release that knee down. Inhale, curl the left toes under, extend and straighten back, and exhale as you gently release the left side. Keep going. Let's do 2 more times each side. And just further warming up the legs here. Keep hugging that navel in and up. Try not to sink down too much. Press down through the hands lightly as those armpits come up off the mat. After you finish that final one, just come back to a nice neutral spine in your tabletop. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. Okay, we'll recurl those right toes under, extend and straighten that right leg back. This time you have the option to add your arm. So you can stay here if this is enough for you. Otherwise, extend that left arm straight forward, left palm faces towards the right side. Keep pressing back through that right heel as you extend out through the left fingertips. We're here just for a breath. And exhale, gently release the left arm, right knee down, switch to the other side. Just curl the left toes under, extend and straighten that left heel back. Right arm comes forward if you'd like. Right palm faces towards the left side. Hug that navel in and up. Press back through that left heel as you extend and lengthen out through those right fingertips. One more breath. And exhale, gently release. Now separate your knees wide. Bring your big toes to touch. And just gently start to send your hips back towards your heels. We'll come into child's pose. If you need to modify your child's pose, you can always place a blanket or a pillow or something in between if you like that. Once you rest your hips back down, they don't need to touch your heels. You're just resting them there. Then you can gently rest your forehead on the mat. Or if it doesn't quite reach, you can use a block as well. Just have your arms out in front of you. Just take a nice deep inhale and exhale. While we're here, let's just roll out the wrists. So stay in your child's pose, but make fists with both hands. Just gently start to roll out those wrists. Start making circles in one direction. Begin to slow and make those in the other direction now. It's always good to spend some time on the wrists. Begin to slow Extend those fingers back out. Gently press your palms down and begin to lift your hips up and your forehead back up. Come back into that tabletop pose with the knees back underneath the hips and the tops of the feet to the mat. Hi, Coney. Okay, we're coming into a wide-legged down dog now. So separate your knees wide and your feet wide, almost to the edge of the mat. Curl the toes under, and now press your hands into the mat as you start to lift your knees up and your hips up, lifting the hips up and back, coming into a wide-legged downward-facing dog. Now, if this down dog is just too much for you, you can always just stay in your tabletop. You can start stretching one leg out each way, kind of what we were doing before. If you're in your wide-legged down dog, take your dog for a walk. Maybe lift one heel, lift the other. If you're familiar with this pose, maybe notice how it feels a little different with your legs wider. We typically have them hips width distance, but now they're shoulder width or maybe even wider. This can be an alternative down dog to use if your hamstrings are a little bit tighter. But keep pedaling out, lifting your legs, doing what you need to do for another breath or two. And come back to stillness. Now have your knees bent. Inhale as you gaze forward. Exhale, we'll walk the hands back towards the feet. So begin to gently walk your hands back towards your feet. Keep your feet wide. Keep walking those hands back. And come into a forward fold. Forward fold with your legs wide. Knees can be bent, letting your head and your arms hang heavy here. Come into ragdoll, so grab opposite elbows with opposite hands. And try to let your head hang heavy in between both arms. Really want to elongate the neck here, so maybe slightly tuck your chin. Look back between both legs. And again, you may be familiar with this pose, but now we have our legs a little bit wider, so it might feel a little bit different. You can stay here. If you want to rock from side to side, you can bend one knee as you turn and sway from side to side. This might feel good on that low back, just allowing it to open up a little bit. Another way to stretch the hamstrings, again, if you're super tight, having more of a wide-legged stance can help. Switch the clasp of your elbows. Keep rocking from side to side if you'd like. Otherwise, just stay right in the middle. Let's go back and forth one or two more times. And come back to stillness. Release the clasp of your elbows. And we had a nice long forward fold, so we're going to take our time coming up to standing. So press your feet into the mat. Try to hug your kneecaps up towards your thighs. That really starts to engage the calves here. And begin to start rolling up one vertebrae at a time. Head and arms are the last thing to arrive. So you're gently pressing your feet down, trying to lift those knees up. And once you've meet me up here in the standing, let's roll those shoulders up and back a couple times. Just loosen out. All right, your feet are wide, so let's bring them in slightly closer, hips width distance. So if you need to know where your hips width distance is, you can either feel for those bony protrusions right at your hips. That's where your heels should be. Or you can take two fists together, place them either in between your knees or in between your feet. That's pretty much right about hips width distance. All right, have your heels behind the center toes so the feet are nice and parallel. Arms down to the sides. And you're gently pressing the feet into the mat. What I'd like you to try to think of is raising the kneecaps up towards the hips. It's a real subtle thing and hard to really demonstrate or show. It's very subtle. But see if you can envision yourself raising your kneecaps up. What that does is try to help kind of turn on the calves and turn on the thighs. Really those hamstrings as well. So have the arms down to the sides, palms face forward. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. Take a moment to reconnect to your breath here. Maybe set an intention for class. understand or know why you're here. Maybe you're here to observe or just listen, try something new. Maybe you're here to settle, release, or energize. Just take one more deep breath and exhale. All right, we'll begin warming up the rest of the body with some sun salutations here. So we're at the back of our mat, feet are hips width distance, arms down to the sides. Let's inhale the arms forward and up overhead, palms face each other. Stay for a moment here. This is our Urdhva Hastasana, extended mountain pose. And now we'll exhale, hinge forward. Try not to let your hips sway back. Gently hinge forward, nice and slow. Knees can slightly bend. You come into your forward fold. We were here before with our legs wide. Now our feet are closer together. So while you're here, let those arms and those shoulders hang heavy. If you have your blocks and like to use your blocks, if your fingertips or your palms don't quite meet the mat, you can place your blocks underneath your hands. And if you don't have your blocks and just want to stay here, you can rest your hands on your thighs as well. And just let your head hang heavy here. Now we'll come into a halfway lift. So place the hands on top of your shins, right below the knees. Press your feet down and inhale, halfway lift. What we're looking for is torso parallel with the ground and extending all sides of the torso here. Really drawing out through the crown of the head. Stay for one more breath here. And exhale, come back into your forward fold. Staying for a breath. Now press your feet into the mat. Hug those kneecaps up. And inhale the arms forward and up. Come back up to standing. Arms overhead. Maybe you gaze up towards those fingertips. And exhale, hands down through the center of your chest and down to the sides. All right, let's repeat that. This time we'll do one breath to one movement. So inhale the arms forward and up, overhead, palms face each other, look up. Exhale, knees slightly bend, hinge forward into your version of forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, nice long spine parallel with the mat. And exhale, rebend into forward fold. Press your feet into the mat. Inhale the arms forward and up, overhead, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hands down through center, down to the sides, Tadasana. One more time. Inhale, arms up overhead, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hinge forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Press your feet into the mat. Inhale, arms forward and up. Rise back up to standing, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, hands down through center and down to the sides. Now we'll add on to that. So we'll inhale the arms up overhead. Exhale, hinge forward, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, nice long spine. And exhale, forward fold. Now bend your knees as much as you need to plant your hands on the mat, shoulder width distance. From here, we're going to slowly walk out into that downward facing dog, but this time our feet are going to be hips width distance. So keep your heels on the mat. I want to see how far you can start to walk out while still keeping your heels down. Keep your knees bent. It might be short, it might be only a couple feet. This is about as far as I get to. You might be a little bit farther while still keeping your heels down. Just stay in your modified down dog just for a moment and just notice how it feels with your heels on the mat. Knees are definitely bent. Your chest can rest on your thighs. Just stay for one more breath. And exhale, you can lift your heels up and come back forward. Walk your hands forward into a traditional down dog. Just wanted you to notice how that felt. It might be a little different. I know my heels are always off the ground in down dog. So it just gives you an opportunity to try something different. So knees can still be bent. Again, if down dog is too much, just stay in your tabletop. We're here for 2 more breaths in our down dog. Make sure you're pressing down through the base of each finger and each palm, especially that index and that thumb. And press the heels back and down. One last breath here. Now inhale as you gaze forward, knees bend. This time exhale as you walk up towards the top of your mat. So now you're walking your feet up towards your hands. Have your feet hips width distance at the top of your mat. Knees can bend in your forward fold. Come into halfway lift, high coney. Inhale halfway. And exhale, re-forward, forward fold. Press your feet into the mat. Inhale, lift the arms up and overhead. Palms face each other. And exhale, hands down through center and down to the sides. Just take a moment to catch your breath here. Now, let's turn towards the long side edge of your mat and come into a wide-legged stance. So wide-legged stance, you can estimate it about 3 or 4 feet. You can extend your arms out, and wherever your wrists are, if you were to drop something down, that's where your feet are. Just make sure you're comfortable to start. Begin with your hands on your hips, your knees, your heels are behind the center toes, so the feet are nice and parallel, just like we were in our Tadasana mountain pose. Hands at your hips. Now turn your legs in so that the heels are in and the toes are facing out. About a 45-degree angle for both of those. Coming into our goddess pose, but we'll make this more dynamic. So keep your hands at your hips for now, and we'll gently start to bend our knees and lower down into our goddess, keeping our knees tracking over our ankles. Now inhale, press through the feet and re-straighten the legs. Exhale, rebend. So we'll inhale as we straighten. Exhale, bend. We'll do this a couple more times. Now it's easy to let your low back arch here. Keep moving on your breath. So try to draw the tailbone down and lift these frontal hip points up towards the front bottom ribs. Still have a nice long spine here. And try to have the knees go farther out rather than let them fall in. Do this one more time. Re-straighten. Now, have your toes facing forward back to where we started. And again, if you have your blocks or your box or even a chair you could put in front of you, just place those in front of you. We'll come into a wide-legged forward fold, and sometimes it helps to have something in front of you. This can be a really great hamstring stretch here. So again, keep your feet nice and parallel this time. Hands at your hips to start. Inhale as you lengthen up, create a nice long spine. And exhale will start to hinge forward, just like in our standing forward fold. This time our legs are nice and wide. So once you come down about halfway, you can release your hands either on your blocks, however high they may be. If you're using a chair, you can release your hands on a chair, or you can release your fingertips or palms down to the mat. So just do whatever works for you. Just keep your hands shoulder width distance wherever you are. You want to shift more of the weight forward into the balls of your toes, but still keep the heels on the mat. Again, gently try to hug those kneecaps in and up towards your thighs. Towards your hips. That really starts to engage those calves a little bit more. Let the head hang heavy wherever you are. Create a nice long neck. We'll stay here for 2 more breaths in our wide-legged forward fold. One last breath. Now, if your hands are back towards your heels, you can start to walk them forward so that they're underneath your shoulders. And just press up wherever you are, either off the ground or the block. Place your hands to your hips. Slight bend in the knees as you press your feet down. Inhale, lift back up. Let's come back into that goddess stance again. So heels in, toes out. This time we're going to add a twist. So bend the knees. Have the knees hovering over the ankles. Draw that tailbone down. And release the hands to the inside edge of those thighs. So inhale as you lengthen. And exhale, release your left shoulder down as that right shoulder rolls back and you look up over that right shoulder. So you're using that left arm to hold you up, pressing that left thigh away. This is where my low back always seems to crack. Turning your neck to look up over that right shoulder. Just stay for one more breath in our twist. And exhale, come back to center. Stay low here. Inhale as you lengthen. And exhale, twist, dropping the right shoulder down. Looking over that left shoulder. Oof. I'm not sure if you heard my back crack there. It definitely did. Using that right arm to press that right thigh away. Stay for one more breath. And exhale, gently release back to center. Press your feet down into the mat. Inhale, straighten. Bring the arms up overhead. Exhale, hands down through center and down to the sides. All right, heel toe your feet back together and come back to the top of your mat if you're not already there. Okay, now at the top of your mat, your feet are still hips width distance, arms down to the sides. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Take an inhale and exhale. Let's inhale the arms up overhead, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hinge forward, forward fold. Knees can bend. Inhale, halfway lift, nice long spine. And exhale, forward fold. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Place both palms shoulder width distance on the mat. And we'll step the right leg back and step the left leg back and drop the knees to the mat. So we're not quite in tabletop here, we're more in a modified plank pose. So in tabletop, our knees would be underneath our hips, but now in our modified plank with our knees down, our knees are farther back at an angle. So make sure you're there. You still have your shoulders on top of your wrists here. Just stay for one more breath. And exhale. Now make sure those knees are still hip width distance and those feet are curled under. We're going to gently start to shift our hips back on top of our knees. So now our shoulders are not over our wrists. Once our hips are over our knees, we'll begin to walk our hands forward. We're coming into puppy pose here. This is another modification for down dog in case you want to have another option. The idea here is to keep the hips on top of the knees, and then you just walk your hands out to your capacity. You can release your forearms to the mat and gently release either your forehead, your chin, or if you're a little more flexible, your chest might rest on the ground here. Again, if you need a block, you can place a block underneath that forehead as well. The idea here is to keep the palms and the forearms still shoulder width distance, and you're still gently hugging those arms in. Engaging just like you would in your down dog. Just take 2 more deep breaths in your puppy pose. One more breath. And exhale. So begin to walk those hands back in. Come back into your modified plank pose. So again, your shoulders are back over your wrists and your knees are behind your hips. Keep the toes curled under. We'll begin to lower ourselves all the way to the mat, but keep hugging your navel in and up. We'll inhale as we shift the shoulders forward, so now they're over past the wrist. Bend the elbows back, and all one piece lowers to the mat all as once. So the elbows bend back, everything lowers at once. Once you're here, you uncurl those back toes, so the tops of the toes come towards the mat, or rest on the mat. Your hands are still on the sides of your ribs with the elbows facing back. We'll add our back bends. So press the tops of the feet and the hips into the mat, and inhale as you raise your head and your chest up off your mat. Keep the bottom ribs on the mat, send your heart forward, and try to draw those toes away from your body. Create length here. Stay for one more breath. Exhale, gently release. We'll come back into that again. So press the tops of the feet into the mat, hips down. Inhale as you lift your head up, chest up, into your baby cobra. Elbows draw back. Shoulder blades draw down your back. Tailbone draws down towards your heels. Look for more length rather than height here. One more breath. And exhale, gently release. We'll curl those back toes under. Press ourselves up into that modified plank pose. You can stay here if you'd like, or with the toes curled under, lift the hips up and back. We'll come into downward facing dog again. We're here for 3 breaths. Keep pressing the hands down into the mat. Send the chest back towards the thighs. And if your knees are bent, maybe try to straighten them a little bit. Really start to stretch out those hamstrings here. Down dog is just the perfect stretch for stretching out those hamstrings. Nothing fancy here. I try to keep a nice long spine. So if you are curling your back by straightening your legs, I'd rather you have a straight back. So try to keep your back nice and long. One last breath here. Now bend the knees. Exhale, look forward, and walk or step to the top of your mat again. At the top of your mat, feet or hips width distance. Inhale, halfway lift, nice long spine. And exhale, forward fold. Press your feet down into the mat. Inhale the arms forward and up overhead. And exhale, hands down through center and down to the sides. So take a moment here. Again, when we come up from our forward fold and we come up through Tadasana, you have a couple different options for your arms. Your arms can either raise forward and up, or they can raise out and up. So I've been saying more of to raise the arms forward and up, just because that does add a little bit more strength requirement in the backs of your legs, in those hamstrings, where more of the weight is forward. So that's the emphasis today. So with your arms down to the sides, take one more inhale and exhale. So let's inhale the arms forward and up, overhead, palms face each other. Exhale, hinge forward, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, nice long spine. Exhale, forward fold. Place your palms on the mat. Bend your knees as much as you need to. But this time, keep your left foot forward. Extend your right leg back with the toes curled under. Drop the right knee down. Now, from here, we're in our low lunge. If you have your blocks, you can place them underneath your hands. Give you a little bit of elevation here in either level. But really make sure this left foot is on the left side of the mat, right foot is on the right side. If you need to put some cushion underneath that right knee, you can put a blanket, you can put a pillow, you can put a towel. You can also roll up the side of your mat, add a little bit extra cushion that way. But with that right toe curled under, we'll just have a slight bend in that knee back there, and keeping this left knee on top of that left ankle. We're staying for one more breath in our low lunge. And exhale. Now release the blocks off to the sides if you were using them. Press your palms into the mat with the right toes curled under. Lift and straighten that back right leg and step that right foot up to the top of the mat. We'll switch. So now extend that left leg back. Release that left knee to the ground. With those left toes curled under, slight bend in the knee and have the right knee draw over that right ankle. Again, use the blocks if you have them to give you a little bit of elevation. And really try to draw that tailbone down. You're staying down and forward, sending the heart forward. And stay for one more breath. And exhale, release those blocks off to the side. With the left toes curled under, straighten that back leg. Draw that left foot up to meet the right foot. Press your feet into the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. Press your feet down. Inhale the arms forward and up overhead. Exhale, hands down through center and down to the sides. Okay, we're going to build off what we had just done. So inhale the arms up overhead, palms face each other. Exhale, hinge forward, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, hands to the shins, nice flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Plant your palms. Step your right leg back again. Keep your left leg forward. Drop that right knee to the mat. Keep those right toes curled under. If you have your blocks, you can bring your blocks again. Again, starting just as we were before in our low lunge. But this time we're going to start to shift our hips back. And remember in our puppy pose, we had our hips over our knee. So that's where I want you to stop. So you're going to shift back as far as your hips over that knee. As you start to send your hips back, this left foot flexes so that the left toes come off the ground. This is our half split pose. Now, if you have your blocks, you can place them to give you a little bit of elevation on either side of the leg. This is where you'll really start to feel it in the back of that left leg. That's where you do want to feel it. So make sure, again, the hip stays over the knee. You're not going too far back here. You're still in a nice long spine. And once you're here with that left foot flex, if you want to walk either your blocks forward or your hands wherever you are, you can add in a little bit of an extra stretch here. You should really start to feel it here in the back of that leg. Just try to keep your shoulders and your hips facing forward, and you're really drawing this left hip back. Let's stay for 2 more breaths here. One of my favorite poses to stretch out those hamstrings. And exhale. Now gently start to shift back forward to where we started. So we have our knee, left knee back over that left ankle. If you're using your blocks, just place them off to the sides. Press your palms down into the mat. Curl those right toes under. Lift the right knee up and step that right foot forward. Let's switch. So we'll send that left leg back. Release the left knee to the ground. And now if you have your blocks, you can use those. Begin to send your hips back toward your heels. You can stop when your hips are directly over that knee and that right foot starts to flex with the right toes coming back towards your face. This front leg doesn't need to straighten. That knee can still be bent if you'd like. But you just really want to square your shoulders and your hips, drawing this right hip back. Try to create a nice long spine so you can send your heart forward. Just try not to round too much, getting your chin. Try to just draw your chest towards your toes. You can use your blocks if you want to walk your blocks or your fingertips a little bit forward to add into the stretch. Be my guest. Just go to your capacity. Stay away from pain. Stay here for 2 more breaths. Just one last breath here. All right. Walk your hands forward. Come back into your low lunge. Release your blocks off to the side for now. Curl those left toes under. Lift the left knee up. And draw that left foot up to meet the right foot. So you're back at the top of your mat. Make sure your feet are still hips width distance. Now with your knees bent, take your peace fingers and wrap them around your big toes. So the knees can bend as much as you need to. You take your index and your middle finger, wrap them underneath the big toes so the fingers face each other, and then you can wrap the thumbs underneath as well. Bend the knees as much as you need to make this happen. Have the elbows flare out to the side, head hangs heavy. Let's begin to shift a little bit more weight into the toes so that you're pressing the toes down, pressing that big toe into your fingers, and you're gently lifting the fingers up as well. So you have that kind of counter action. You can stay here if you want to start to straighten those legs. You'll definitely feel it in those hamstrings as well. Just keep trying to draw those kneecaps up toward your hips. And that's a weird sensation, but once you try it, once you think about it, it might start to make sense and you'll definitely feel the difference. Just let the head hang heavy, chin slightly tucked to elongate that neck. Just one more breath here. Exhale, gently release the clasps of your toes. Let's inhale, halfway lift, nice long spine. And exhale, forward fold. Now from here, press your feet into the mat. Inhale the arms up overhead. And exhale, hands down through center and down to the sides. All right. Let's come on to our backs. Meet me right where we started class. So gently lower down, have your legs out in front of you, come onto your back, rest the back of your head to the mat. With the feet hips width distance, knees hip width distance, begin to walk your feet back so that, again, your knees are directly over your heels. Place the arms and the palms down beside your hips. We'll come into our bridge pose. So press the feet into the mat and inhale, lift your hips up, pelvis up, chest up into your bridge pose. Now spin those inner thighs in and down to keep those knees hips width distance. A lot of times they want to flare out to the side, so keep them hips width distance. Keep pressing the feet down. Your arms can stay here. You have the option to roll the shoulders underneath so that you're on your triceps. Last option, if you like to clasp your fingers underneath your back, you can do that as well. Just keep lifting those hips up, sending the chin away from the chest and the chest towards the chin. One more breath in your back bend here. And exhale, release the arms out from underneath and gently lower from the top of the spine. Low back is the last to arrive to the ground. Let your knees fall into touch and separate your feet out to the width of the mat. So knees touch, feet wide. Gently start to rock the knees from side to side. Really take your time here. This alleviates a lot of that pressure in that low back if you have any more tension there. And let's come back to stillness. Make your feet back to hips width distance, knees bent, and separate those knees wide. Now grab your strap again. We'll come into the same thing that we did at the beginning of practice, but I want you to notice if there's any different sensation, maybe a little bit more range or mobility here. But we have the same two options where we're going to wrap the strap underneath our foot. So if you like having that knee bent, you can keep it there. Otherwise, if you want to straighten that bottom leg, go ahead and straighten that left leg. We'll start with the right leg. So bend the right knee in towards the chest, wrap that strap around the bottom ball of that right big toe or that right foot. Again, if you have that left leg straightened, flex that left foot. Otherwise, keep that left foot on the ground with the knee bent. Remember, shoulders on the mat. Grab both ends of the strap. Keep the arms relatively straight, and then you can begin to straighten that leg, flexing the right foot, extending the right heel up towards the sky as you draw that right thigh in towards the chest. So again, notice you might be a little bit more warmed up here. It might feel a little bit different, might have a little bit more range, or it might be the same. Again, that right knee can stay bent. Mine never gets quite straightened, especially if you're one that likes to, or that may hyperextend the knee. Definitely keep a slight bend in that knee. Keep pressing the left thigh down. Stay here for one more breath. Now exhale, keep the strap around your foot, bend that right knee. Place both straps in your right hand, and we'll add a spinal twist here. So we'll let the right knee fall off as you roll over on your left side. You can release the strap once that right knee comes down. So keeping that right knee down, if it doesn't quite meet there, you can place a block underneath that right knee. And then you reopen that right shoulder, adding your twist here. Maybe that right shoulder comes to the ground. You can keep that left hand on top of that left knee. Just try to have your knee at least up at hip height. If it's any lower, like down here, it adds a little bit more stress in the low back. So try to at least have it up at hip height. That left leg is straight with that left foot flexed. And the outer edge of that left foot rests on the mat. And you're opening up that shoulder, resting the right shoulder on the ground if you can, and extending that right arm. You say right shoulder on the ground? Yeah, and extend that right arm out with the right palm facing up, either in a T or a field goal shape. You can turn the neck to look over those right fingertips. Stay for one more breath. And exhale, turn back up towards the ceiling. Let's draw that right knee back in towards your chest as you release your hips down. And we'll switch to the other side. So whatever you'd like to do, if you want to straighten or bend that right knee, we'll draw the left knee in towards the chest. Grab your strap. Thank you, Coney. Place around the ball of that left foot. And again, keeping your shoulders down, hands in either end of the strap, arms slightly straightened, flexing that left foot, drawing that left heel up towards the sky as the left thigh draws towards the left shoulder. Again, if that right leg is straight, flexing that right foot and pressing that right thigh towards the ground. Notice how this may feel different. Let's stay for one more breath. Again, rebend that left knee. Place both ends of the strap in your left arm. Open that right arm out and let that left knee fall over the right side as you turn onto the right side of your body. You can release the strap. Outside edge of that right foot comes to the ground. And then open up that left arm to the side. Because I should have mentioned before, if that bottom leg, if that knee was bent, you would want to straighten that first before coming into your spinal twist here. And if you need to, you can place a block underneath that left knee. You're opening up. Left arm extends out with the left palm faces up. Maybe you turn your neck to look over those left fingertips. Stay here for 2 breaths. And gently release. Coming back to center. Release that strap off. Recenter your hips. Let's draw both knees back in towards our chest. One last squeeze here. And exhale. Mind your pets. Extend your legs straight out. Extend the arms overhead. Let's point the toes and extend the toes away from the fingertips. Full body stretch. And exhale, gently release. Arms down to the sides. Palms face up. Legs are long with the knees and the feet falling out to the side. Coming into your Shavasana pose. You also have the option, if you have your blocks, you can place your blocks underneath your knees. Sometimes by elevating the knees, it can allow more of our spine to come in contact with the mat. So just do what works for you. As you settle in here, just allow yourself to release any last little bit of tension you may have. Maybe you hold that in your tips of your toes. Maybe you can release your jaw. You might still be furrowing your brow. Just release any last little bit of tension in the body. Also release any control over the breath. Just be. Trust your body to settle in. And allow it to just exist on the mat here. Your eyes can slowly start to soften, or your gaze can close completely. Just let your body be heavy. And begin to bring some awareness back into your body. You can wiggle your fingers and your toes and rotate your wrists and your ankles. Switch directions in those rotations and come back to stillness for one last breath here on your back. And just gently bend your knees as you roll over to one side of your body. Let your top arm rest on your bottom, and your top knee rest on your bottom knee. Stay for a breath here on your side. Keeping your eyes softened or your gaze closed, use your top arm to press yourself up into a comfortable cross-legged seat to complete your practice today. Once you're in your cross-legged seat, you can place your palms on top of your knees. Palms can face up, or bring your hands into the center of your chest. Let's all take an inhale in together and exhale. Thank you for joining me in practice today. The light and love in me acknowledges and honors the light and love in each one of you. Thank you. Peace. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me for practice today. Hope this was a good little warm up for you. I hope you enjoyed the kind of fundamental breaking things down, really warming up our hamstring hip flexors. If you enjoyed this class, we will. Well, hi, Diana. Thank you again for joining. Hope you're doing well. Hope your schooling is going well too. Good to see you. Um, but yes, if you want to get into these stretches a little bit deeper, this week, Wednesday will be a level 1 class, and Friday, I know it's the day before the 4th, but I'll still be planning to teach on that Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern as well. If you have any questions, always let me know either in the chat or the comments for the video. Also, my contact info is in that video description as well. Again, I want to thank you all. Hopefully this was a great way to start your week. Take however you're feeling and put it out into the world. Again, my name is Daniel. If you'd like to donate, that video description has info there to donate your time, energy, or find out just some more resources on racial and social justice. I appreciate everyone that's reached out to me to let me know that they've donated or they've supported in some way. So thank you all. Let's keep that going. And I'll see you next time in practice. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Daniel with Daniel Lee Yoga. Have a great day. Peace.